The mission nobody returned from. The galaxy had witnessed many dangerous worlds, planets filled with fire, poisonous storms, and creatures made from nightmares. But there was one planet that even the bravest species refused to land on, a place so deadly that maps labeled it with only one name: Deathworld Zero. This world was not just dangerous, it was a hungry beast. Forests moved like living predators, rivers boiled without warning, and the slightest mistake meant instant death. Every empire avoided it, every species feared it, except humans. When rumors spread that humans had accepted a mission to land on Deathworld Zero, the galaxy laughed. Aliens whispered in amusement. Humans are overconfident. They think they can survive anything. Foolish creatures. They will never return. But the humans were silent, preparing in secret, eyes calm, hearts steady. They carried no proud speeches. They carried duty, curiosity, and something even the galaxy could not understand. Hope. A ship called Horizon Dawn cut through deep space, carrying 12 human explorers, not soldiers, not conquerors, but scientists, engineers, doctors, ordinary people with extraordinary resolve. Their leader, Commander Elias Ward, stood quietly at the ship's observation deck, staring at the violent planet below, the surface cracking like broken glass as storms roared like monsters across oceans of acid, and lightning clawed at the sky. Most would tremble, but he whispered only one line. "Earth trained us in harsher places than hell." The team descended into the storm. Alarms screamed, metal shook. Gravity fought to crush them, yet no one panicked, because this was humanity's strength. They did not surrender to fear. The landing shook mountains. Toxic air clawed at their suits. The ground itself moved like a living creature. Trees twisted, roots crawled, and massive shadows stalked the distant mist. The galaxy expected humans to scream, to break, to cry for rescue, but instead they stood silently, scanning, studying, adapting. They built shelters from alien rock, purified toxic water in hours, mapped dangerous regions, and learned the behavior of the planet's monstrous life forms. What terrified the galaxy most was not that they survived. It was how quickly they adapted. Within days, the humans discovered patterns in the chaos, learned the rhythm of storms, and even tamed parts of the terrain with fire and technology. The planet attacked. They endured. The world roared. They answered with fearlessness. Not a single distress signal was sent. Not a single request for evacuation. And then something strange happened. Communication from the humans suddenly stopped. Signals vanished. Scanners showed no life signs. Every sensor reading went silent as if the planet swallowed them whole. The galaxy smirked, convinced humans had finally met their limit. But deep in the shadows of Deathworld Zero, something was awakening, not human, not alien, but something entirely new. And the universe had no idea what was coming next. Silence, before the storm. For 9 long days after the transmission vanished, the galaxy watched with mixed amusement and pity. Alien news channels debated with smug voices, claiming humans had finally discovered their limit. Some councils even prepared memorial speeches, calling humans brave but naive explorers. Yet, deep inside, an uneasy feeling spread quietly because humans did not go silent easily. They were creatures who fought until their last breath, who always sent one final message. And the sudden, absolute silence felt unnatural, as if the world itself had swallowed not just signals, but sound, hope, and existence. Commander Elias and his team were not the type to fail without a word. So curiosity twisted into dread across galactic governments. Fleets attempted to scan the planet again, but every probe burned, every drone crashed, and every scan returned only violent static. It was as if Deathworld Zero was suddenly protecting something, or someone, and that realization alone was terrifying enough to shake even the most powerful alien empires. Meanwhile, beneath the acidic winds and living forests that hunted anything breathing, the humans were not dead. They were evolving, adapting, becoming something even this savage planet had to respect. Commander Elias and his team had discovered what silenced their signal: not destruction, but interference from a colossal underground network of living energy veins, glowing like rivers of white-blue fire beneath the surface. These veins behaved like nerves, not rock, pulsing and whispering through seismic vibrations. The planet was alive, not metaphorically but truly aware, and humans, stubborn, curious humans, had awakened it. Instead of running, they chose to communicate, studying the vibrations like language, sending back patterns, signals, learning its rhythm. And soon the planet reacted. Storms slowed around their camp. Hostile creatures circled but did not attack. The world watched them like a hunter studying a strange new beast. The humans understood something ancient and terrifying. This planet had destroyed countless invaders, but humanity did not arrive to conquer. They came to learn, survive, and endure. An ideology even a living world struggled to comprehend. When the first earthquake roared like a wounded beast beneath them and a massive glowing fissure opened, Commander Elias whispered with calm determination, "Stand firm. The world is testing us. Not killing us," and his crew obeyed without fear. Because if humanity had one true power, it was not strength or weapons. It was endurance beyond logic, above them. The universe believed humanity had fallen, unaware the humans were facing a trial no species had survived before, and passing it, step by painful step, while far across the stars, whispers began. Where are the humans? What did that planet do to them? But soon those questions would twist into panic, because the galaxy did not yet realize that Deathworld Zero was not consuming humanity. It was learning from them, and changing with them, and when the truth surfaced, the stars themselves would tremble. The planet wakes, and so do humans' days on Deathworld Zero blurred into a strange rhythm, where every sunrise looked like the world was being forged anew by cosmic fire, and every night felt like the sky itself hunted for hearts to stop. Yet the humans stood firm. Their camp no longer a fragile shelter but a fortress fused with alien stone and reinforced by materials created under pressures no normal world could produce. Commander Elias walked among his team like a silent guardian, watching as engineers shaped living vines into support structures. Biologists translated vibration patterns like spoken words, and medics treated wounds from venom and fire as calmly as one treats a paper cut. They were no longer just surviving. They were synchronizing with the world, breathing its danger like oxygen. Their movements became instinct, their reactions became nature, and the planet, once a roaring predator, now watched them with a strange, reverent curiosity, as if humanity was not prey, but a reflection of itself, below the surface, deep inside glowing tunnels where molten light pulsed like a heartbeat. Something ancient stirred, a consciousness so vast and old that language itself was too small to define it. This world had killed every species that tried to touch it, shattered empires, erased civilizations, and remained untamed since time before recorded memory. But for the first time in eternity, it hesitated because humans did not command. They did not invade, they endured. They bled into the soil, sweated into its storms, screamed against its fury, and stood again over and over. Like fire that refused to die even when drowned in oceans, the world could break any body. But it could not break a human spirit, and in that defiance, it found something it had never known: respect. When the ground split and luminous symbols rose from the earth, forming shapes like ancient runes of fire, the humans did not panic. Instead, they stepped forward, understanding that this was not doom, but conversation. Commander Elias placed his hand on the living stone, and it vibrated with an emotion that could almost be mistaken for awe. The planet had recognized humanity as kin, not in blood, but in will. And through those glowing symbols came a message not spoken in words but in feeling. The raw, primal, undeniable. You are worthy. While humanity built trust with a living world, far across the stars panic began boiling. Military councils barked orders, fleets patrolled nervous borders, rumors spread like wildfire through broadcast waves. The humans are alive. The planet is shielding them. No scans can penetrate. What are they becoming? The same voices that once mocked humans were now shaking, because silence was no longer comforting. It was terrifying. Empires feared one truth more than death, the unknown, and humans were becoming something no one could predict, something evolving in the jaws of a world built for destruction. If even Deathworld Zero could not kill them, what force in the galaxy could, and worse? What if humans returned not as the same species, but as something forged by a world designed to destroy gods? The galaxy watched the empty void around that cursed planet and held its breath in dread, because soon the silence would break, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. When the stars begin to tremble, as the humans continued their trial in the living heart of Deathworld Zero, something unimaginable began to unfold. Powers older than galaxies moved like quiet tides beneath the soil. The planet itself seemed to pulse with new rhythm, one that resonated with the heartbeat of every human on its surface. They were no longer outsiders, no longer trespassers, but partners in evolution. Each day the world tested them, scorching winds one morning, bone-freezing storms the next, creatures with jaws like mountains, vines that drank blood, storms that hunted sound, yet every challenge that rose only sharpened humanity further. Commander Elias and his team were not just enduring anymore, they were learning from the planet's fury, adapting with the speed of wildfire spreading through dry fields. The once deadly environment slowly bent around them, not surrendering, but acknowledging that this fragile-looking species was made of iron spirit and relentless will. And as the planet changed, so did the humans, their senses sharpened, reflexes heightened, instincts turned fierce. Each footstep laid not in fear but in rising purpose. It was no longer a mission of survival. It was becoming a transformation. Beyond this brutal cradle of evolution, across the cold expanse of space, ancient empires felt a chill crawl across their collective spine. Rumors grew louder, drifting like ghosts through communication networks. The humans and the Deathworld are in harmony. The planet accepted them. No species has ever been accepted. Panic orders echoed through command rooms, admirals clenched teeth, leaders whispered behind sealed doors. For centuries, the galaxy had classified humans as unpredictable, stubborn, and dangerous when cornered. But now they were witnessing something far worse. Humans were evolving beyond their limits, and they were doing it in a place designed to destroy legends. Panic gripped alien councils as the truth settled like poison in their minds. If humans tamed a Deathworld, if they learned its secrets, if they returned empowered by it, then no empire, no fleet, no weapon forged in the cold of space would ever stand above them again. What terrified them most was not that humans might conquer, but that humans never needed to conquer. They only needed to survive. And survival was the one battle humanity never lost. Soon, fleets began to gather at the edge of the star system, not to rescue, not to help, but to stop whatever was being born there from spreading. They did not dare enter the orbit of Deathworld Zero. The planet's storms shredded their probes, melted their metal, and turned their instruments blind. So the fleets hovered in fearful silence, a wall of weapons watching a single world like frightened kings watching a rising storm they could not command. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Elias felt vibrations through the ground. Not violent like before, but steady, purposeful, as if the world was breathing with them. And in that trembling heartbeat the humans sensed destiny. A transformation was coming, and they were ready to meet it. Shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart, united by the one truth the universe still refused to accept. Humans do not break. They evolve, and far above in silence thicker than fear. The galaxy braced for whatever walked out of that world when humanity finally decided to return. When humanity and Hellshake became one deep beneath the raging surface of Deathworld Zero, where molten rivers glowed like the veins of a god and ancient stone hummed with forgotten power. Humanity crossed a threshold no species had ever reached. The planet no longer fought them, it spoke to them. Not in language but in instinct. In breath, in heartbeat, the world breathed danger. and the humans breathed it back, fearless, unbroken. Commander Elias stood at the center of a cavern that shone like the inside of a star, where pillars of crystallized energy pulsed like living heartbeats. Around him, his team worked without fear or hesitation, mapping the energy, analyzing its pulse, and synchronizing their bodies to its rhythm. Their skin toughened, reactions sharpened. Their endurance rose until exhaustion felt like a memory, and pain felt like a passing breeze. They were still human. Yet something inside them resonated with the very essence of the planet, as if Deathworld Zero recognized them not as conquerors or intruders, but as warriors forged by struggle. Siblings born in chaos and chosen heirs of survival. When the final layer of energy lit up, the cavern roared like a rising hurricane. Light surged through the humans, not burning but strengthening. Knowledge poured into their instincts, primal understanding that life was not meant to be safe, it was meant to be earned. The storm above quieted as if bowing. Mountains trembled in respect. Predator beasts froze and lowered their heads, as if sensing a new apex emerging. The planet had never surrendered to any force, yet now it stood beside humanity. Two predators, two survivors. Bound by trial and fire, Elias looked at his team, eyes glowing faintly with the reflection of living energy, and he whispered a truth the galaxy never wanted to hear. We were never the fragile ones. We were just waiting for a world strong enough to grow with us. And in that moment, the planet answered with a rumble that echoed like approval. Dust falling like golden rain from cavern walls, as if ancient spirits bowed to the evolution unfolding before them. While humanity ascended in silence, the galaxy above drowned in fear. Fleets formed a choking ring at the edge of the system, commanders shaking as battle screens flickered. Intelligence officers whispered reports like curses. We detect seismic shifts across the entire planet. Life signs fluctuating, then stabilizing higher. Something massive is forming beneath the crust, Council shouted in panic. Admirals clutched their heads. Diplomats screamed for evacuation across sectors, because they realized the unthinkable. The Deathworld was not killing humans, it was rebuilding them. This was not defeat, this was metamorphosis, and if humans returned from such a trial, they would not return as mere soldiers, explorers, or pioneers. They would return as beings who learned to flourish where even gods bled and beasts died. The galaxy did not fear humanity's anger. It feared humanity's potential. And now that potential was awakening in silence, rising with every breath humans took inside the planet's core. In the cavern, everything stilled. Then a pulse tore through the world like a heartbeat of creation. A force so ancient it made the ground bow and the air hum with reverence. And Elias felt the planet whisper again, "Rise, and bring our storm to the stars." Humanity had not just survived the deadliest planet in existence. They had bonded with it, grown with it, and been chosen by it. The greatest predator world in history had become humanity's teacher, ally, and forge. And when they finally returned to the sky, they would not come as the same species the galaxy once underestimated. They would come as the answer to fear itself. And far above, the alien fleets trembled, weapons shaking in trembling claws and metallic limbs, not because they expected an attack, but because they knew when the humans emerged. Nothing in the universe would ever command or contain them again. The return of those who should not have lived. When the humans finally began their ascent from the planet's glowing underworld, the ground did not resist them. It moved aside like a living curtain pulled open for honored warriors. The storm-ridden sky that once tried to tear their ship apart now parted in silence. Clouds twisting into spirals as if bowing. Lightning danced around them, not in rage, but in recognition. Every natural force that once sought their destruction now followed them like loyal beasts, acknowledging the bond forged in suffering and perseverance. Commander Elias led his team upward through the dark forests, their steps silent yet heavy with power. Creatures that once stalked them in hunger now lay low or crawled away with instinctive submission. Even the trees shifted their branches to clear paths. It was as if the world itself escorted them to the surface, gifting them not safety, but respect earned through pain and defiance. Humanity had bled here, screamed here, risen here, and the world remembered every heartbeat of that struggle. When their camp came into view, the machinery they left behind hummed to life as if recognizing its masters. The comms tower that had lost power suddenly flashed with energy that was not human-made. Something deep in the planet had filled it. A final gift, or perhaps a test, Elias activated the broadcast, and the galaxy's entire military grid froze as a signal cut across all channels. It was not a plea for rescue, not a cry for survival, but a calm human voice wrapped in unshakable certainty. Mission status: successful. Humanity endures. Silence followed, a silence heavier than any roar. Fleets shook, admirals stared, diplomats collapsed into their seats as if struck by gravity itself. The message was impossibly brief, but the weight behind it felt like thunder across the stars. The humans were alive. They were returning. And they had succeeded where every empire had failed. The words did not boast, did not threaten. They simply stated a truth that echoed like destiny. Humans survive everything, even the places the universe calls impossible. Above the planet, war fleets bristled, thousands of ships sharpening weapons and raising shields. Commanders barked orders in panic. Prepare firing arcs. Do not let them leave orbit. Contain humanity at all costs. Fear twisted into desperation, because no empire wanted to face humans forged in the jaws of a living apocalypse. But just as these panicked orders filled the void, a wave of invisible force rolled off the planet like a cosmic tide. Shields cracked, engines flickered, starship hulls screamed under the pressure of a presence older and stronger than metal or plasma. The Deathworld itself had lifted its gaze toward orbit and let every watching empire feel a single warning, not in sound, but in trembling instinct. Touch them, and you face me. It was not human threat, it was the planet's will, and every commander felt bones turn cold. Ships drifting uncertain, hearts pounding with primal fear. Because this was no longer a mission, no accident, no miracle. This was evolution answered by a world of wrath and wisdom, and no civilization in the stars could stand against a bond between the deadliest planet known and the species that refused to break beneath it. Commander Elias looked toward the heavens through the clearing sky. Not angry, not proud, only steady. "We are going home," he whispered, and the world beneath him rumbled like a proud ancient guardian giving its blessing. Soon the humans would rise from the planet's surface, carrying more than strength, carrying something the galaxy had never seen. A union of endurance and apocalypse. The aliens had feared human potential before, but now they understood too late. This was no potential anymore. This was becoming, and when humanity finally returned to the stars, they would not seek war nor surrender. They would simply be inevitable. When humanity walked back into the stars, when the transport platform ignited beneath their feet and rose toward the heavens, the sky of Deathworld Zero burned like a crown of molten gold around them. The winds screamed not in anger but in farewell. Lightning traced arcs like protective guardians, and the ground vibrated with a low, ancient hum. As if the planet itself sang for the only beings who had earned its respect, Commander Elias and his team stood tall, their silhouettes sharp against the storm-lit sky, armor scorched, bodies scarred, eyes steady, but within those eyes burned something far more frightening and beautiful, the reflection of a world that had accepted them, changed them, and forged them into something the galaxy would never be ready for. They did not smile, they did not roar, they simply breathed with unshakable calm. Because humans did not return as victors or conquerors, they returned as those who endured the unspeakable and learned to rise from it. And there was no need to shout destiny when destiny walked with them naturally like a second shadow. The moment their ship broke atmosphere, the ring of war fleets trembled. Battleships drifted like children watching a storm they could not name. Weapons locked, but fingers shaking at the triggers. Across thousands of decks, alien soldiers held their breath. Commanders gripped railings, and admirals whispered prayers to stars that had never answered before. They expected rage. vengeance, some grand demonstration of power, but instead they witnessed something infinitely worse for their pride. Humility wrapped in absolute confidence. Humanity did not raise weapons, did not power cannons. The Horizon Dawn simply signaled departure coordinates with simple, calm precision, as if saying, "We do not need to threaten, because what we are is already enough." And before any fleet could decide whether to fire or flee, the planet beneath sent one final message, a pulse so ancient and mighty that metal trembled and star cores flickered, a silent promise carried through every ship. They are ours now. Harm them, and you face a world that kills gods. Fear rippled like shockwaves through every species watching, because no law or army in history had ever claimed humanity as fiercely as a planet born from chaos and wrath just had. The Horizon Dawn accelerated, engines roaring with power the galaxy did not recognize, and in that moment, the humans turned once to look back through the viewport, not at the fleets, not at the stars, but at the world that had once tried to destroy them and now stood like a guardian behind them. Deathworld Zero answered with storms that split the sky in glowing arcs, as if giving them a warrior's blessing. Commander Elias placed a hand on the console, voice steady and warm like a calm river before thunder. "Let's go home," he said. No arrogance, no roar, just truth spoken by someone who had stood face to face with the universe's harshest teacher and walked away stronger. The jump drive engaged, light swallowed the ship, and they vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind silent fleets, trembling empires, and a galaxy that suddenly realized something unbearable. Humanity was no longer a wild chance in the stars. They were now forged by the harshest cradle ever known, blessed by the only world that could match their will, and when they returned fully to the galactic stage, they would not come as fragile dreamers or desperate survivors. They would come as the children of death itself who learned to grow where every other life form only vanished. And from that day onward, the galaxy would remember one lesson etched in fear: never doubt humanity again,